is we're going to create our first volume. So volumes are sort of how Downcrawl describes spaces. A volume, think of like a three-dimensional volume, a three-dimensional space, right? Because the deep, deep down goes up, it goes down, it goes left, right, it goes in all directions. So a volume is sort of an area, a region that might be, have some dominant force. Like it's the domain of a particular dragon. It might be a town, it might be a dungeon. It could be, all kinds of things. But volume's kind of the primary sort of things we put in our map of Downcrawl. So we're going to make our first volume. We did do this already, so we learned how to ask. So we're going to start by determining the volume's first two details. And we do that by asking theme and then by asking aspect plus terrain. So yeah, let's start with theme. So I'm going to draw a card from the deck. Every card has actually two themes on it. So if we flip it over, we get a second theme. So we can choose between either Great City for our first volume or Monumental Project. I like starting with a city, starting with a great city. Let's go with that. That seems like a good solid foundation. Okay, and then we need an aspect plus a terrain. And this, I'm just going to grab the whole deck here. This is a cool thing. You kind of get this with quality and idea here. But whenever there's tables that you often consult together, those are printed on opposite sides of the cards and color-coded. So all you need to do is flip over the top card and just make sure the symbol lines up, and you have your prompt. So aspect plus terrain, we have here crumbling catacombs. Cool. So we have a great city built within crumbling catacombs. That could not be more Downcrawl. I love this so much. Excellent. What a perfect first volume. Okay. So these cards that I moved off to the side, you can totally just use index cards for these. You don't have to use anything fancy. But these are sort of templates for volumes and folk, which we'll get to later, that I just printed out at home here. And there's going to be print and play stuff you can get with the game. And this just kind of reminds us of the stuff about volumes we need to track. So I'm going to use these instead of blank index card. Okay, so I'm skipping ahead just a little bit here. The next thing we want to do is we want to sort of combine these two details and tell the concept for this place. So it's a great city in the midst of crumbling catacombs. I'm trying to decide if the city, it's like a ruined city, like it used to be great and it's now crumbled into ruin, or if it's a city that's sort of like deliberately been built, in this catacomb space. That feels kind of cool. I wonder if they're like trying to find some resource, like they're here because there's powerful undead here, or there's some like it could be sort of like a Diablo situation where people go into these catacombs to search for treasure and the city's kind of built up around it. I like that. Let's go with that. That seems really cool. Okay. We want to name this volume next. And I always, for names, people can get really hung up on trying to think of the perfect name. I always just try to go with the first stupidest thing I can think of. Catacomb City seems fine. Let's go with that. So now we're going to create a map deck card, which is what this is. So each volume you'll have a card, and there's certain mechanics where you'll draw from the map deck to get a random place, and it's also just a useful reference of all the places you've created. Okay, so this is Catacomb City. And I realize it's a little tricky to read this stuff on stream, depending on what your resolution is, but hopefully it's about big enough that you can at least remember what it's supposed to be. It's got a theme of great city. You can see there's 6 spaces for details here. There's 3 kinds of details, and a volume is what's called fully defined once you have each of these 6 boxes filled out. But we'll kind of get to that as we go. A key thing is we're not going to completely invent this place yet. We're just kind of creating this first spark of it, and then as we play, we'll have more opportunities to sort of iteratively learn more about it. So it's a great city. And the first terrain type we know is crumbling catacomb.